Hey guys, good morning. Rise and shine to another fantastic day. I hope it's going to be that for you. We're into still the book of Judges, chapter 6, and we're talking about one of my great heroes. His name is Gideon. Yesterday we see Gideon had to test, first of all, to see if it was really God who was speaking to him. And when he came to terms with the fact that God had spoken to him, despite how he felt, that was peace with God. And he built the altar and he said, Jehovah Shalom, that means God is my peace. I hope you found that peace, because God does want to use you. Come to grips with that. But now today we see how Gideon passes that great test from yesterday, but now Gideon has another test that goes through. And this is the test that God puts to him. Yesterday he tested God. Now God is beginning to test Gideon, because we read from chapter 6 verse 25 to 32, and I really would encourage you to go and do these Bible readings. I'll tell you what it speaks about. It talks about after Gideon had made peace with the fact that God could use him, Gideon had to make peace in his own mind and in his own heart, and so he had to get rid of the idols that surrounded him. Now these were in the main his father's idols, and he probably had a few of his own, but he had to get rid of those. So we read how at night he went down and he demolished the idols and he flattened them all. And in the morning they woke up and they were all shocked because their idols had been flattened. That was a great courageous act that Gideon did. And he went down and he flattened the idols. Well, we don't need to go any further to see the parallel for us today. You cannot go into having peace with God, wanting to fulfill the purpose of God, while you still carry the idols of the past. There are many idols out there. Think about them. The idols of popularity, power, prestige, the idol of plenty. I've got to have more. When is enough enough? And we have all these different idols, and we have to lay those idols down. In fact, we don't just lay them down, people, we destroy them. We destroy them. We lay them low so they can never come up again. And only after he had got rid of the idols that surrounded him was he able to move ahead to do what God had called him to do. So chapter 6 verse 25 to 32 is a great description of what he had to do. He had to break with his past. You see, you cannot go into the future in the Christian experience until you break with your past. Isn't that what the problem with the children of Israel in the wilderness was? They didn't want to break with Egypt. That's why they were stiff-necked people. Moses says, you're a stiff-necked people because you keep looking back to the past. People, we haven't got time to look back on the past. We haven't got time to fix anything from the past. We haven't got time to gloat over maybe the things we had in the past. They have become idols. And as subtle as Satan is, he will use those things to stop you fulfilling ultimately God's purpose for your life. You gotta break with the past, get rid of the idols of yesterday. Now, if you have a look at this in the Christian experience, it's about God really being God. And when there's any measure of compromise that God may not be first in your life, there's a problem. Now, a perfect example of this would have to be Solomon. Here was a man who wrote the wisdom literature of the Bible. What a wise man. He asked God for wisdom and God gave it to him. But Solomon messed up. You know, he didn't finish so well. He only snuck in by the skin of his teeth, I think. But Solomon was bewitched by the idols that the woman in his life brought into his palace and into his home. He began to play them down and say, oh, well, you know, if that's her God, she can worship that idol. He could, and he almost was persuaded to bring those gods to a point where he would begin to worship them himself. Now, if Solomon fell for that stuff, how much more vulnerable aren't you and I? If Solomon fell for the fact that there are other gods out there that he could potentially worship, other gods with small g's out there that he could possibly bring into his life, if it was true for him, folks, man, it's true for us as well. There are gods out there with little g's that would want to get your attention to make you make them number one. But you do know there's only one God with a capital G, and you know who he is. And he will not stand for any other competition. I love the fact that God is a jealous God. You belong to him. You don't belong to them. And God is jealous for your full attention, for your full commitment to Him. He's jealous. Now, envy is a different thing. Envy is where I want what is not mine. If I want something that somebody else, that's envy. God is not envious. He can have what He wants. God is jealous for you. He will not share you with any other god, and He will keeping on pointing out to you, get rid of the gods. You can't go to the future. You can't walk with me while you're carrying the past gods with you. We've got to break, people, with the past. We've got to cut that umbilical cord that keeps drawing us back. We've got to stop being stiff-necked and looking back. We have to focus on God being number one. I almost feel like I want to apologize for saying it, because I think I've said it so many times. But you know what? Can't apologize for it. I'm probably going to say it a whole lot more. God will not settle for being second place. He has to be number one. Have a fantastic day, you guys. Love you lots. Bye.